So first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's an amazing opportunity to come out into Europe and talk to passionate professionals working with kids, because that is how we can affect most kids with the knowledge that we gain and that we produce these days. And as Frida said, I'm going to give a talk on games not just being fun. And to quickly get underway, we have about 20 minutes, and I'd like to propose that we use those 20 minutes to save the world through the power of words. And shortly about me, my name is Mogensen, I'm out of Denmark, and I know stuff about games. That's usually how I introduce myself. I know stuff about games, but maybe it would be more correct to say that I know stuff about gamers, because I am one, and I have been one for 28 years. That's a picture of me age 2 my dad took after he gave me my first computer. And as opposed to the VHS tapes with Disney movies or the audio cassettes telling me fairy tales of H.C. Andersen and so on, I quickly found out that when I played on my computer, if I pushed the keyboard, if I pushed the buttons over here, it made one sound, it made one effect. If I pushed the buttons over here, something else happened. There is this very primitive, dynamic entertainment that had the onset in the early 80s, and I jumped on board of the bandwagon in the late 80s. And that led to me some years ago, 4 years ago, circa, writing a thesis at Aarhus University on the possibility for human growth and existentialistic development in World of Warcraft. Do we grow up? Do we grow as human beings whilst playing video games? The answer was yes, and that is partially why I'm standing here today, because I'd like to talk about the arguments leading into playing games. And I work for a lot of different, mainly Danish, but also pan-European companies and unions and NGOs and so on. But what we are going to talk about today is the fact that computers, tablets, cell phones, all these interactive mediums are wildly popular. They're more popular than books. They're more popular than television, and a lot of the stuff going on whilst on the computer, on your cell phone, on your tablet is gaming. All in all, we know that digital media is one of the few things that have consistently been growing more and more popular over the last few decades, partially because the technology have been expanding, but also because we as consumers have become increasingly good at using it. And if we look at some numbers out of Denmark, which are comparative to the rest of Europe, 96% of boys aged 10 to 18 play video games actively. 82% of the girls. That's a lot. We have one pastime that almost all teenagers do every day or every other day. There's nothing else that compares to digital media and computer games. Everybody aged 10 to 18 are doing it. And some other pointers from this survey that we can't go into details with today because of the time constraints. First of all, I should say this is made by Annemette Thorhauge, who works for the Danish Media Council in Denmark. Point: boys play multiplayer games. That is this one over on the bottom left. 94% of the boys primarily play multiplayer games. Girls do not. And while boys play all the cool games, all the FIFA, all the League of Legends, all the Minecraft, stuff like that, girls play the, pardon my French, crappy Candy Crush, Heyday, Sims games. Those are not good games. Boys play good games, girls play sucky games. But today we're gonna talk in very broad strokes about playing games. When these surveys in Denmark are published, the main thing a lot of the newspapers take away is young people play a lot of video games. That's bad. We need to stop them, because if they play video games, they'll grow violent, they'll become antisocial, they'll grow fat. Stuff will happen that will degrade them into just these awful human beings. I'd rather we'd flip that around and pose the question, how do we use this to our advantage? We have a pastime that 96% of the boys, 82% of the girls are actively participating in. I propose that we don't try to stop them, but rather meet them there. We have a medium that collects them, that unionizes them. Let's game with them and learn how can we make them grow as human beings whilst playing video games. So for today, I'd like to make it our goal to understand why we play video games, to gain insight into the culture of video games, and to learn how we can use this to our advantage in saving the world, because we have 15 minutes left and we need to save the world. So, what do we already know? We know that when we play games, something happens, and that can have a positive or a negative outcome. This is the basic premise of today. And I'm not going to talk about if we get antisocial, or if we become violent, or if we become pro-social from playing video games. That's a very long discussion. I'd rather take a step back and talk about why do we play video games? What happens? Why do we play video games? There can be a number of reasons, but I'd like to, first of all, form a basic understanding of why do we play games? And that's an open question. I'll take any answer from the audience. Why do we play games? What's the point of a video game? When I ask these questions to parents, the main understanding parents have of games is we play them because they're fun. We play games because they're fun. We like to pass time. We like to kill time. I disagree. I'd like to propose that for today we nurture the understanding that games aren't necessarily funny. Fun is not the primary desired outcome of a game. Games are not supposed to be fun. Games are made and designed and perfected into being one. Games all have the possibility of being one. That's important because whilst we are on way to winning a game, it might also be emotional or memorable or awesome or educational in some way. But all games have this premise of you can win them. And it can be easy, like Heyday, Candy Crush, Krabby games, or it can be hard, it can be an obstacle you have to concentrate or focus to overcome, like Dark Souls or League of Legends, This War of Mine, all these, I want to call them good games. But for the rest of the day, when I talk about games, I'm talking about the good games. All right? So this doesn't adhere to Candy Crush or Heyday or whatever heroin-like video game you're playing on your cell phone. But part of the semantics about understanding that games are meant to be won will also lead to an understanding of gamers not as losers, but as winners. Quite literally, gamers are winning. Video games are the business of winning, giving an empowerment, a feeling of winning to kids. So, to further the point of games not being necessarily fun, when we play video games today, we deal in serious topics, whether it's the atrociousness of war or the possibility of underwater capitalistic societies, apartheid in a future society, or the fact that your life, your actions do not matter. We deal in serious, big topics. That's not fun. War isn't fun. This War of Mine, it's not fun. I played it last year. It wasn't fun. I didn't laugh one time. I cried. I, at some point, put the controller down and just said, I'm not playing this game because I'm heartbroken. My favorite character died of pneumonia. That's an impact. That makes me feel something. And that's important when we talk about video games. Because games tell stories, games show emotion, games demand dedication, and they engage the players. We have a medium that can engage and dedicate 96% of the boys, 82% of the girls, and we, per default, want to stop kids from playing video games. Let's see if we can't use this for meeting kids, engaging kids in whatever we'd like them to. So why do we play games? If not for fun, then for the premise of saving the world, to have a story, for the victory, for the challenge, to explore, to connect. All these things basically summarize to, we play games because we like to feel good. That's what people like. Adults, children, teenagers, everybody likes to feel good. And if we focus on the word feel, that's what games can do. Games can invoke feelings. Games can modify moods and mindsets. Children can play a game and then have their mood altered. They can play an aggressive game if they need to launch out some feelings, or they can play a cooperative game if they like to connect or hang out with somebody online. And they don't know that's why they're doing it. But if we look at the basic human needs, this is Maslow's pyramid of needs. The top of it, all these amazing things, friendship, family, intimacy, self-esteem, confidence, achievement, problem solving, spontaneity, creativity. That's what games are about. All the popular games today deal with huge problems you need to tackle in cooperation with other people. You need to help, you need to communicate, you need to socialize, you need to get better constantly. Those are powerful human feelings. So, why do we play video games to have these feelings? Why don't we just go into the world and play? Because I'd like to quote one of my favorite thinkers on the topic, Jane McGonigal. She said in 2010, reality is broken. If you go out into the world and say, I'm gonna change the world, you'll meet 10,000 people who will tell you you can't. Or you'll meet 20,000 people who tell you that's fine, but you need to do your homework. Or, yeah, you can't change the world, or you can't try to cooperate into changing the world because, well, dinner is served in 5 minutes. So tough luck, we'll change the world tomorrow. We have a generation of kids growing up in a world that feels broken because they can't have the same emotions in the real world as they can in video games. And I have two anecdotes to underline that. I've worked in therapy with kids who have been playing, let's say, too many video games to participate adequately in school or in their family or in their social circles. And I've basically been hired to downsize the amount of video games they're playing. Which is understandably, if you play video games 20 hours a day, you can't function. Cool, I'll buy that. But usually when parents talk to me or professionals hire me, it's because, well, we have a video game addiction problem, or games are addictive and then stuff happens. I like this notion of, well, there's probably a reason why the kid or the kids today, the generation of gamers, are searching into video game communities because they're not broken. Reality is broken. To be honest, to be brutally honest, school today, broken. It sucks. It's boring to go to school when you could play video games. I don't say that to knock on the teachers. Education is important, but compared to video games, it's kind of boring because you can't win in math. You have one exam, at least in Denmark, you have one exam in the 9th grade. That means you have 9 or 10 years of education before you can face the final boss, before you can complete the game. That's not nice. If I play Dark Souls, I'm 20 minutes into the game, I'll meet my first boss. And when I've completed that boss, which can take hours, and I'm thoroughly entertained, I'll pick up my phone, call one of my friends and say, dude, I fucking did it. I beat Smough Ornstein. I'm amazing. I'm a god. I didn't have that experience after my exams in primary school in Denmark. So in that way, reality for young kids, kind of broken. Not that there's anything wrong with going to school. It's just not as fun as playing video games. But I want to see if we can change that in the last 7-8 minutes to save the world, to save a generation of kids. One of the things I heard kids say when we talked about why do you play so many video games, why do you play so much? And this one is, to me, very heartbreaking. I'm better when I play. I had a kid say, I'm better when I play. Why do you play video games? Because I'm better. I had a kid who only felt good, who only felt empowered when he played video games. The psychology behind that is pretty intuitive, but also kind of complex, because human beings like to win. Whether it's football, school, or video games, we like to win. But video games are designed to let us win. That was my first premise. So, it's not just about winning, it's about winning in the right way. If things are too easy, we don't bother. That would be like playing football against a 5-year-old. I'm probably going to win. It's not going to feel especially good for neither of us. Because on the other hand, if it's too hard, if I play football against a professional, I'm getting my ass kicked and I won't have fun. But if I play against someone on just my level, who's just right, where I will win if I concentrate, if I focus, if I put myself into it, and I win, then it feels amazing. That's a nice feeling. To overcome something that feels almost out of your reach, that's amazing. That is what makes human tick. That's what we love. That's why we do stuff. That's why we constantly try to get better. And games are designed to give us this feeling constantly, whether it's through asking us which difficulty level would you like to play on. Are you a beginner? Are you an intermediate? Or even if it's dynamically calculated throughout your gaming. This is the calculations behind your opponents if you play League of Legends. If you play enough games of League of Legends, you'll have a win-to-loss ratio of about 1-to-1. You'll win half the games, you'll lose half the games. Because you will constantly be matched up against someone who's just as good as you are. Because you need to be able to win, but it won't be guaranteed. So that's why when we play games, we feel better. Because if we try hard enough, we will win when playing a video game. We constantly get this feedback, whether it's Diablo or Heyday, Farmville, whatever cell phone game that is, that now you've grown better, now you've leveled up. That's amazing. That's good. You're so good. You leveled up. We don't do that in math. Once a year we get advanced to the next level. We don't get level up. So you're level 16 in multiplication. That's an amazing feeling. I want to get to level 17. There's nowhere else in the whole world where we have this feedback regimen as well as we have in video games. That's why we feel better when we play video games. Another way of putting it is, I'm important when I play. Does anybody know what this is on the screen? It's a quest log. It's a quest log from World of Warcraft. And this one says that you need to go to Khadgar and speak with him. Have any of you guys tried to tell a teenager, I need you to go over there? You get one answer. Why? Why? Why should I? And games are amazing in telling us, because if you don't do it, then the dark portal will open and you can stop the Horde's invasion of Azeroth. Holy shit, I better go over there, because if I don't do it, the world will get destroyed. Games constantly let us be the most powerful, most important person, character, whatever, in the world. If you don't do it, the world will succumb to darkness. And that doesn't matter if you play football games or Wild West games, or if you want to play as a goat. When you play Goat Simulator, you're the most important goat in the whole world. And if you don't goat your best, then all the goats will die. That's a pretty powerful emotion. So that leads to gamers having epic wins. When we win in video games, this is the face of somebody winning in video games. This is the face of a gamer. This is not the face of somebody going to school. If it is, then I want to go back to school in Poland, because I didn't look like this in math class in Denmark. This is an amazing image. This captures the, I didn't think I could do it, but I did, emotion. That's powerful, and games are designed around that. So, when was the last time you saved a life? When was the last time you saved the world? I did it last Tuesday. I saved the world last Tuesday. And again on Wednesday. That's amazing feelings. So, to summarize, games let players explore and be awesome and communicate and be pro-social and conquer the world. Games make players happy. Games empower their players. So when we talk about gamers from now on, I'd like us to understand that they're ambitious, motivated, brave, social, they're focused, they're entertained, they're competitive, they're inspired, they're smart. There are a lot of things. That's awesome. That is amazing feelings. Gamers aren't introverted social recluses. They're trained to slay dragons. They are trained to conquer the world every day. If they get knocked down, they'll get right back up, or they'll respawn. But I'm not standing here and saying that we shouldn't educate kids, that we shouldn't go with them into the digital world, because if we have a continuum of didactic games and real games, then gamers will want to play the real games. That's where you come into the picture. As professionals, you need to game with the kids. Look at them. What happens when they play games? Look at their emotions, look at their motivations, and follow them into that endeavor. Professionals need to put the learning back into the fun games. You need to let them use what they like and put the games into play when educating or when teaching kids to be good human beings. So the key takeaway today is when kids play video games, don't look at the screen. I don't care if they're playing Minecraft or GTA or whatever. Look at how they're playing. They're playing together. That's amazing. If kids want to play GTA, but do it together and have fun and don't use it as Hooker Murder Simulator 2015 and all that, cool. I don't give anything for the age restrictions. If they play it in a good way, if they play it in a pro-social way together and have fun, and are not like committing crime sprees and getting off on that, cool. Play all that you want. But the last slide of today, I promise. So from today on, we need to acknowledge the fact that entertainment can be educational, that games can facilitate growth. We need to understand games as a medium. And this one is on you guys. You guys need to start playing games. Go home, buy a PlayStation, get some good games, please. We need to acknowledge the fact that games satisfy basic human needs. We need to use games on par with movies or books or experiences had on the weekend. We need to rethink what a gamer is. If we do that, we'll get a generation of kids used to communicate and cooperate. Understanding of young people that are motivated to get better. That's what games are about. Games are about winning, and games are about getting better. And we'll have players that are constantly curious. You need to solve this problem. Why? Well, if you do it, you'll find out. Pike their curiosity, make them change the world. And we'll have a generation of kids not afraid to slay dragons. If you tell a gamer, I need you to cure cancer, they'll be like, all right, just put it in my quest log, I'll level up and then I'll do it. We'll have a motivated generation of kids. And that's going to be amazing for the next 20, 25 years. Thank you so much for having me. You can contact me on this email if you'd like to argue, discuss, or talk about video games and kids. Thank you so much for having me.